The following cold open contains graphic descriptions of digital violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Brad, I was very lucky this weekend and had to go to urgent care.
That doesn't sound lucky to me, but go on.
Well, when you go to, look, I was doing some sanding and I was sanding in a stupid way with the power sander.
Oh, no, I don't know if I want to hear the rest of this, but continue.
I'm okay. Everything's fine.
All right. Do you still have all your skin?
No.
Oh,
do not have all my skin.
Oh, man.
So I was sanding on the downhill side of the disc sander, which you're not supposed to do. You always sand on the uphill side. So when something bites or you lose the grip, it rockets up instead of jamming between your hand and the grinder.
Wait,
and
I'm sorry, hang on. What does it mean for something to bite?
Well, bite means it holds on more than you would expect it to. So it grabs it and then it gets wedged into the thing. And so I was sanding on the disc sander and the thing got stuck in the guard at the bottom and my finger was between the guard and the disc. And I sanded into the nail bed.
Oh boy.
I don't know if we should start with the podcast like this. This is pretty horrifying.
I think it's too late. We're already deep in.
I'll put a content warning before, maybe.
Seriously, I've been playing so much Callisto Protocol, and we're streaming that new Dark Pictures, which is basically Saw, that I feel like I am kind of I'm pretty inured to gore at the moment.
Callisto Protocol is gross,
dude. I saw a death animation last night that I had not seen before. I guess it's because I just hit a new type of enemy.
Like the thing that happens to your friend in the first 5 minutes was like, this is too much for me. I don't want to play this game anymore.
They not only gouge his eyes out, but like most of the eye socket. There's like, I shouldn't get into it. So I'm sorry.
So anyway, on my body horror front,
you just scratched your nose with the offending finger, and now I see.
Here's the thing: the scratching side, no problem. The other side, really hurty all the time.
There's a significant bandage on the tip of your finger.
Look, I went to I cleaned it. It was one of those ones where I did it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. And I looked at it, I was like, yep, that's bad. And then I walked into the I turned off the thing, and I walked into the kitchen. And I just took a couple of Advil and then I turned on the sink and rinsed it out in the sink and then poured some hydrogen peroxide on it and then put a little Neosporin, the pain relief Neosporin on it. Because it didn't, but by this point, it still hadn't started hurting yet. And I was like, that's really not good. When it doesn't hurt for this long, that's probably a bad sign.
Yeah, it's when the inflammation sets in.
So I cleaned it all up. I cleaned up the mess that I'd made. I put all the stuff up. And then I was like, I think I'm going to go to urgent care. She was like, was it that bad? I was like, it's not great. I went to urgent care and they looked at it and they were like, everything's going to grow back. You're going to be fine. It's going to hurt for a little bit. But you're like, I'm not going to have a weird shaped fingernail or anything anymore. So I was very lucky.
You still have fingernail though?
I have about 2/3 of a fingernail.
Okay, that's descriptive.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, grinding into the nail bed does not feel good. I would advise against it to anybody who considers trying that.
Yeah. You ever lost an entire fingernail?
No. Toenail. When I was a kid, I caught a toenail under remember how mechanical doors used to open? They used to just put mechanical flippers on doors that used to open in and out. And I was walking toward one that had the pad that went out and my toe went under it because I was wearing flops. And
oh, boy.
Whoop, popped it right off.
Oh, I'm having flashbacks to the time I lost a thumbnail.
Ow. How'd you lose a thumbnail?
In a heavy industrial-ish metal door at the screen printing shop I used to work at.
If we still have any listeners after this, we have a real good episode planned this week.
Have a good podcast.
Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Good morning, Brad.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm fully awake after that intro.
So I had to get a tetanus shot out of all that. And as a
that's
result,
why the tetanus shot. Okay.
My whole left side has been hurty and stiff for the last 3 days. And it's finally to the point that my shoulder moves and it doesn't hurt anymore. So that's pretty exciting.
Just don't use power tools. Maybe we need to make some robots to use the power tools for us. We need tools to use our tools.
Look, if I hadn't been a dumbass, I would have been fine. Like I literally did something stupid. I knew I was making a mistake when I did it, and I immediately paid the price.
Oh, shit happens, you know. I've got a family member that lost a whole finger to I think it was a circular saw, some kind of table saw.
Oh shit! Yeah, table saw. I'll get you.
Yeah.
The thing that is nice when you go to the urgent care place and you have done something, like usually when I've gone to urgent care, it's because something like I don't want to go to the emergency room, or I've got like a cold and can't get into my normal doctor, or flu or something. I want to get like some sort of, you know, whatever. Anyway, the urgent care people are really good. And when you come in with a wound like this, they're like, hey man, you should be more careful. Did you just get this tool? Is this a new thing?
Wait, or did they really admonish you?
No, they were being kind. They were like, hey, I hope we don't see you again for this one, because, you know, be more careful next time.
Sounds a little scoldy to me. I don't know.
Look, as they were pouring, they poured a quart of hydrogen peroxide onto my finger to clean it. So, yeah. Anyway,
they're like, "What? You think this stuff grows on trees?"
I mean, it's kind of easy to. Anyway,
oh man, I don't even want to think about urgent care. I'm in the middle of an insurance transition.
Oh yeah, no, you should not leave the house.
No, I have my Cobra ran out last month after 18 months of having the same insurance I had when I was last employed.
Yeah.
And I'm getting on different insurance in January.
Mm-hmm.
But this gaping December shaped hole in my insurance coverage was just staring me in the face.
So did you get something?
I got basically 1 month of insurance off of the exchange.
Oh yeah.
There is not an urgent care in San Francisco that I can go to with this insurance.
Well, you can go. You just have to pay out a network.
Well, the policy says zero urgent care coverage.
Oh, then you just go to the ER. Good luck.
It's an HMO. Yeah, it's an HMO.
Oh,
the closest urgent care I can go to is about 90 minutes away by.
That's not as urgent as I would like.
By the travel means that I am capable of. It's way out in the East Bay. Insurance. Hello.
Yeah, America sucks. Don't get sick in America. That's the lesson.
No. Don't not be rich in America is basically the only advice that actually.
I work with somebody who's from Brazil, and she told a story about the first time like when her family members come visit and they've never been here before. They're like, is the healthcare thing really as bad as everybody says it is? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, pay for the travel insurance. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes.
This week, we're going to talk about storage, Brad. It's one of our favorite topics.
Yeah, we talk a lot about storage. I promise this is not just another NAS episode. No. NASs will be referenced at points, but it's kind of, I think we describe this more as sort of a digital organization, like storage organization type of episode.
Yeah, so about a week and a half ago, I built a new PC on a stream, actually, with our friends from PC World, Gordon and Adam. We'll post the URL in the show notes if I remember to put it in there. And it's the first time I'm starting from scratch with a new PC in a really long time. Like the last probably 10 years, I've been building off of the same. I've been ship of Theseusing a computer, right? Like so, when I was looking at the old PC, like there's some SSDs in there that are from like 2014, probably.
That's it.
500 gigabyte. What?
Come on, man. What?
That's
it.
Well. So, I mean, I upgraded. There was a spinning disk at one point that was 2 terabytes that became a 4 terabyte that became an 8 terabyte drive, right?
Fair. I'm kind of giving you a hard time, but
yeah, the case I just upgraded last summer to the H510, which I've caught endless grief for.
I've got storage spaces doesn't tell you how big these disks are. I've got a couple of SSDs in here from like 2010, 11, 12-ish era.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, we'll get to it.
So anything under 512 gigs, I've transitioned to either the kiddo's computer or the streaming PC, or like one of them I used as the cache in the FreeNAS drive for a long time. So, all the small SSDs went away. Like anything that was less than one Warzone in size.
Sure.
Yeah.
Look, can we abbreviate that to WZ?
Yeah. Look, we released on an unrelated note. We released Steam Workshop support for the Anacrusis this week. And there's a bunch of good, terrible stuff in the Workshop store for the game now.
Great.
But our mod tools originally were like 400 gigs, or like 1.5 war zones.
Yes.
And now we're down to 0.2 war zones because we were able to delete some stuff, move some stuff out of the archive. So
0.2 WZs. Just remember that if it's capital Z, it's Zeits. If it's a lowercase z, it's Zits.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, yeah, so we use war zones as an informal measure of size in our shop.
You actually do that? This is
I
not
do it
something
because I think it's funny.
This is not just a goof you made up for this podcast. Are you actually telling people on your team this build is 3.5 WZs? It
was the joke I made when one of our engineers was like, hey, I cut the mod tools down from 380 gigs to 50 gigs. And I was like, hell yeah. Wait. It's you're a 0.25 war zones now.
Gigs?
Terabytes, sorry.
Wait, those
no, gigs. Wow,
those are big mod tools.
Well, so on Unreal, you have to. So on Source, you can pull stuff from the files that are attached to the game when you're doing mod tools with Source games. Unreal, you can't do that because they encrypt the files by default. So you have to distribute. Like if we want to distribute assets from the game with the mod tools, we can't point the mod tools at the game to pull the assets out. We have to actually send. It's not just because they're encrypted; they get baked down. There's all sorts of other stuff that happens. So the upshot is we have to distribute the source art for anything we want people to be able to build with, in addition to the code environment, all that stuff.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah, it's look, Unreal is they're paying attention. They're getting better at how this works. So and it's complicated and not that many games use it. So anyway, I don't remember that was a huge digression.
Sorry, yes. I think your new PC kind of occasioned this episode because you've been kind of setting up storage from scratch. I, on the other hand, have got 3+ years on this Windows install, so I've got some cruft. But yeah, I guess we thought we would just sort of talk about like how we organize things and touch on cloud services we're using and backup strategies and you name it.
Yeah, that's it. Like as I was sitting here building this machine out, I was like, I haven't actually. Every machine I built for the last 10 years has had a stuff from C folder on it that was the old stuff from C folder, like the old C drive drug into the new drive. And it's like those files go down, those folders go down like 4 or 5 levels, depending on how many PCs it's been. So the point of this is it's a clean start. And I kind of wanted to talk. I thought it was worth talking about and being thoughtful about rather than just doing the same thing I normally do, which is making a whole massive mishmash of completely unorganized files on the entire thing. So that's where we're at. The PC I have they put when PC World spec this out, they put a bunch of SSDs in it, Brad.
I don't know what else to say here other than I'm very jealous when I heard not only the amount of storage, but the type of storage that they put into that thing for you. I became unreasonably jealous. Go on.
So the machine has 8 terabytes of SSDs, and I arranged them. I put the fast one as the C drive, and then
hang on. I have to stop you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi.
I think by any reasonable objective definition, they are all fast.
Oh, look.
Let's talk about what the drives are.
The drives are, hold on, let me open up the parts list so I get the part names right.
You put Windows on the faster drive, I think is
what you're saying. I put Windows. They're SK Hynix or Solidata, all of them. And let's see, we've got a Solidata P44 Pro 2 terabyte, which is the main system drive. And then the other 3 are SK Hynix Platinum P41 2 terabytes.
Okay, but the bus is the key thing here. They're all PCIe 4, right?
They're all PCIe 4. They're all connected PCIe 4 buses. There's actually a couple of PCIe 5 slots in this motherboard. So in the future, conceivably, I can get something that's even faster. Although, I think we're reaching a point of diminishing returns on flash drive to bus speed.
Yeah. I think we got there a long time ago for a lot of stuff, right? Like direct storage notwithstanding, which still isn't really out there, right? There aren't really at some point that will truly matter for drive speed. But I feel like even when we were still on SATA SSDs, you were seeing benchmarks from people saying moving your Windows install to an NVMe drive doesn't really do much for you. Real world, there's really not much difference.
So I'm going to tell you that's probably changed in the time since at the time it was probably true because the flash configurations and the flash controllers were probably not performant enough to use the extra bandwidth. Now it is I can launch Photoshop in less than 5 seconds on this machine.
So you're feeling it now?
I'm feeling it. It boots so fast, Brad, that I can't. There's no amount of me pressing the go into the BIOS key that can get me into the BIOS.
Yeah.
Like the only way I can get into the BIOS is to go and either press the button on the motherboard when I'm booting it, or use the Windows Advanced Startup stuff.
The Asus board I just got has a setting for you can set like a timeout on the post screen. So
I could do that.
I jacked that all the way up so I would actually have time. They removed the press delete to enter menu prompt. Like this board doesn't tell you what to do to get into. Also, I know it's not a BIOS anymore. It's UEFI, but
it's a UEFI BIOS.
I'm gonna keep saying BIOS. Yeah, you have to know the secret incantation now to get into the BIOS on this board.
Well, like I usually put some good art on the splash screen, and there's no time for it to display now. So
okay, I've softly taken this position before, but I'm just going to put my foot down now. Fuck a splash screen.
I don't see the splash screen. I just go straight to the Windows logo.
Okay, well that's fair.
It's nuts. It's like a Mac.
Look, it will never be a personal computer to me unless there is a text mode post summary when you turn it on.
I've never seen that on my screen on my computer.
Even 20, 30 years ago?
No. I mean, on this new computer, I've not seen it one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm even mad that you don't see the processor speed tick up and the memory test and all that stuff anymore. But
one of the weird things, and we talked about this on the stream, but I think the AMD boards now, the first time you power it up, go through and check all the memory.
Great.
And if you reboot, if you're like, hey, what's going on? It's not booting, and then restart, you can cause problems for yourself. So a lot of the motherboards have stickers on them that say, hey, the first time this computer boots, it's going to take a minute. Don't turn it off or whatever. Anyway. That's the drive configuration I have. I have two terabytes in the C drive, and then I have a D drive that's the 3 other 2 terabyte drives, like striped together using the Windows Drive configuration stuff.
Storage spaces.
Yeah.
So there's stripes, no redundancy there.
Stripes, no redundancy. It's all backed up, so it doesn't. I mean, it's not backed up as of today, but it will be backed up as of the end of this weekend. So,
not to make this all about games, but are those drives fast enough? I mean, again, direct storage isn't really out there yet, but like, are those fast enough that will be sufficient for? Oh yeah, that kind of thing. Oh man, that's so great.
Should be, yeah.
Because like the thing I've been thinking about is ever since they announced that prior to storage mattering for games on PC, it was just like, I'll put them on any old SSD, like whatever.
Yeah.
Now we're in a world where it's basically like the new consoles, right? You have a pretty high minimum threshold for drive speed to actually use this feature correctly.
Yeah.
And so unless you have 6 terabytes of extremely fast storage like you're going to be in the situation where you're like manually moving games that need the faster storage back and forth as you play them, right?
Well, I mean, I find I typically play like 2 or 3 games at most at a time, right? So you're an unusual use case. Like I usually am playing, like I play Fortnite on the reg, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm usually playing one other game that I may be playing on a stream, and then there's one other game that I'm playing when I'm not playing stuff on streams, right?
So wait, do you not keep a huge Steam install library?
Oh yeah, I keep a offensively large Steam install.
I have 153 games installed in Steam at the moment.
Yeah, I look, it took me about 10 minutes to uninstall all the games from the old PC when I moved it over to the stream side.
Oh, there are a zillion questions that I could and probably will ask you as we talk through the stuff that I wouldn't have thought of until you mentioned it. But this is one of them. Do you do I'm just going to copy my Steam apps folder to a new PC and hope that it picks them all up thing?
Don't bother anymore.
No.
Well, okay. So I have done that in the past, as I think we all have. But I have gigabit Ethernet coming into the house and or gigabit fiber coming into the house, and yeah, it's fine. I'm with you. I've only installed Look, my install had gotten kind of crufty, so I have like probably 15 games installed right now, 10 games. I have like Miles Morales and stuff that came out since then, and then I play Half-Life Deathmatch with some friends once a week, and I had Pentiment because I needed to play more of that, and Darktide because it came out and I wanted to check it out, and then a couple other things. So like, it's not an offensive. It's the stuff like I almost always have Dead Cells installed too because I really like Dead Cells, and it's often a game I'll pick up and just kind of poke at for an hour or so here and there.
I've had the same Dota install sitting here for 3+ years.
Just looking at you. When was the last time you played, Brad? How you clean?
I fired it up on a stream 3 weeks ago or something.
Oh wow, that's dangerous.
For shits and giggles, but
oh boy,
somehow didn't really go back to it after that. Thankfully.
So anyway, so the thought of the new storage scheme is The C drive is where stuff gets installed. My main games, the things that I play on the moment to moment, like grounded in Fortnite right now, right?
Interesting. So you're putting games on your C drive. Is that because that's faster? Like for me, I would always want to put the games on the giant bulk drive and keep the system drive free for system stuff.
So I on the old machine that had a spinning disk drive too, I would put I put games on the spinning, I put the deep storage stuff on the spinning disk drive.
Yeah, of course.
But then I realized it was probably faster to just re-download them if I wanted to play them than it was to copy them off of the spinning disk drive onto an SSD. The other thing on C is local caches of cloud storage. But yeah, I keep like Fortnite. Fortnite lives on the C drive, which I haven't actually benchmarked the Windows disk spaces thing versus the striped versus the C drive. Theoretically, the Windows disk spaces striped with 3 SSDs should be a little bit faster, I think. But I haven't actually poked at it to see.
Sorry, real quick. We should probably mention, I know we've talked about it before. Storage spaces is basically Windows' software RAID feature.
Yeah. And I did the software RAID versus the hardware RAID because the software RAID is easier to remove stuff from. If I decide I want to make one, like I wanted to hedge in case I wanted to pull one of those drives out and make a dedicated game drive if there was a performance problem.
Yeah. Where would you get hardware RAID from? Is it on your motherboard?
Yeah, the motherboard will do hardware RAID as well.
Ugh. I don't work in enterprise storage much as I like to pretend that I do. Like, are there any real use cases for hardware RAID these days? I don't see anything.
If you have spinning disks, yeah.
This is the kind of thing where, well, no, even then it's like ZFS or ButterFS or.
Oh yeah.
What I don't. This is where we need somebody who works in the space should write in and tell us.
They will.
Whether there are still use cases for hardware RAID these days at all or not.
They're uptime related usually, right?
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's performance reasons. Anyway, there used to be performance reasons. I don't know if there are anymore.
Yeah, I think that may still be true. Anyway.
Okay. So the other thing that's on the C drive is local caches of cloud storage. So like the files that are like, I have at this point, I have Google Drive and Dropbox and stuff set to only sync the folders that I work in constantly. Like, for example, the TechPod folder and my Stray Bombay folder and stuff like that. Everything else lives online, but the cache of those online files lives on the C drive.
Okay, I've got multiple questions here.
Okay.
I guess the first one is, so are you using I don't even know what it's called this month, whatever Google application like makes your Google Drive like a system drive kind of thing?
So that's
or a special folder like Dropbox?
That's only available if you have a business account.
Oh,
they don't make that available to normal Gmail accounts. Luckily, we have a business account. And once you have a business account, you can download it and connect it to any Gmail account.
Oh,
which is a real choice.
Interesting.
So I don't think I'll install the Google Drive thing this time because it was mainly useful when I was doing a lot of work with video, an external video editor on the stream and at Stray Bombay. But we'll see. Maybe in the future. It's weird though because it shows up as a different drive.
Like an actual lettered drive, not like like I don't know what you call the Dropbox manifestation. I guess like it's like a special folder, I think is how they refer to that.
Yeah, the Dropbox thing shows up. It's just a folder in your user folder. By default.
I mean, in terms of the file system, that's right. I mean, like in the left side of File Explorer, like it'll break out stuff like OneDrive and Dropbox as kind of its own entry.
Yeah, that's called the quick access bar, I think.
Okay.
Although the quick access bar might only be the thing at the very top.
Yes, that's right. I'm looking at it now. Like those live at the same level as computer, quote unquote, and a network in the kind of Windows hierarchy.
Well, kind of, but what you actually can find OneDrive and both of those live underneath C users, your username.
Yeah, they're in your home directory for sure.
I really like the Dropbox model. We use OneDrive for work because we're a Microsoft house, so I have to engage with the OneDrive model as well. I accidentally put my desktop documents and downloads directories in a OneDrive, and I've had to unjack that up.
I generally have not had a big problem with OneDrive, especially the part where they just kind of give you a lot of storage for free.
I just don't use it.
But the part where a lot of those home folder home directories automatically sync up in there unless you turn that off is not good.
Well, and once you've turned it on, it's kind of hard to undo, it turns out. So
yes, some of the OneDrive configuration is a bit confusing. The other thing I was going to ask about this stuff is that you were talking about using selective sync for just kind of folders you're working with.
Yeah.
Do you have to Is it intelligent enough to say, like, if you go in and try to access a file, it'll just sync it all? Or do you have to manually say, like, okay, pull down the cloud version of this folder now?
Oh, yeah. Well, so with Dropbox and OneDrive, as soon as you access, as like they still show up in your folders, in your folder hierarchy, in your file explorer, just like any other file. They just have a little cloud icon next to them that says they're not local. And as soon as you either click on them in File Explorer or try to open them in like Photoshop or whatever application you're using, or even, for example, like with Photoshop linked files where you open a template that has this linked to multiple other files, as soon as Photoshop tries to access them in the background, it'll just pause for a second and download them, and then they're there.
Does it handle that? Sorry, does it handle that sync pretty gracefully? Like if you say you need to pull down like tens of gigabytes to do whatever you're doing, like does it say, hey, we're getting your stuff, or does it just kind of seize up?
It depends. Dropbox just kind of seizes up. I think OneDrive pops up a little thing, a modal that says, hey, files downloading, it'll be a minute.
Okay. I asked because I am in the exact same boat as you. I use Dropbox, OneDrive, and I have 3 separate Google Drives that I use for different businesses.
Too many Google Drives.
And it's a lot. Well, on the other hand, it's nice to have things compartmented out when there are actual business things going on.
I use folders for that.
Well, I mean, we're talking about literal different companies.
Yeah,
also.
no, I know.
Yeah, like managing all that stuff. And I just let everything, well, not Google Drive. I don't have those installed locally, but Dropbox and OneDrive just sync everything locally for simplicity's sake. But I've got 100 gigabytes of Dropbox space. So that kind of does get a little heavy when you let all of that just sit there.
You can set Dropbox to not sync and to keep everything in the cloud. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
yeah.
I don't do that. And so like hearing you talk about how that works makes me think maybe I should. Like I certainly don't need everything in my Dropbox available locally at all times.
Yeah. So my strategy for that is the TechPod folder stays local all the time because we work with large files, right? We work with 600 megabyte audio files. Or
bigger. To be fair, the TechPod folder is a large chunk of my Dropbox space.
Yeah. But. So that one stays big. Like on the Straight Bombay stuff, the marketing images folder, which is where all the Photoshop templates we use to generate all the thumbnails and all the Steam and Microsoft Store art and all that stuff, where all those live, those also stay local because they're huge files. The stuff that's small or that I don't access very often stays offline, and it's really smart because once you leave if you set a folder level, it does everything south of downstream of it with the same setting, right? And it'll I think eventually even Dropbox if you like. So like I have a folder with all my buddy my avatars, the avatars I've used over the years. That one. You can use something and then a few weeks later it'll clear the space from your hard drive and it'll go back to being online only, which is really nice.
Is that comprehensive? Like you've actually kept all of those avatars in one place? I wish I had thought to do that. Mine are scattered across who knows how many directories across different drives.
I started doing it. I must have started doing it around the time the PC and Mac. I started doing it when Dropbox was relatively new when Apple was doing the PC and Mac avatars, because my AIM avatar at that time was John Hodgman.
If you still have your AIM avatar around, then that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I let's see. For a while, I did the Jerry Seinfeld with the churro in the Bill Gates ad, the bad Bill Gates ad.
Mm-hmm.
That was a classic. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of like one-off jokes when we were at Whiskey.
Yes.
There's the Darth created cubic blockhead of the tested blockheads that he made for me. That one's special. Yeah, I have all of them, I guess.
See, Gravatar was just way ahead of its time.
Man, I had to update my Gravatar the other day.
What?
Yeah, you can update them again. Automatic bought Gravatar. I think.
I was just about to say, I know somebody bought Gravatar. I set up my Gravatar like day 2 at Whiskey for some reason. I think because everybody around there thought it was really stupid, which it was, but also kind of cool, which it was.
Yeah,
that thing still shows up. I still, to this day, go out there and sign up for new services, and that same little Pac-Man hand grenade shows up as my avatar.
Oh, see, my avatar was the tested blockhead with the tested sign on it, which is problematic given that I haven't worked there in like 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so cloud storage caches, and then all of the portable apps live in a folder under documents called portable apps.
Just documents, documents, not in one of those cloud.
I'm not putting them in one of the cloud things because a lot of the stuff that I have portable apps of, like fan control and OpenRGB and stuff like that, is per machine, and I don't want to sync that across.
That makes sense.
Even OBS, but I don't do OBS in portable apps because OBS is kind of a shitty portable app.
Yeah, I made separate directories in my home directory, but I do basically the same thing. I have two. I have GUI and CLI for different portable things, depending on if they are GUI or CLI. But like spending so much time in BSD and Linux for the last few years as I have has really made me embrace the home directory philosophy. And like I'm happy that Windows is, because Mac OS is a literal Unix, so it's totally in that realm as well. And like Windows has gotten closer. They're definitely moving in that direction, but Windows is still like infuriatingly inconsistent about what it does and does not keep in your home directory. Like the dream, and like I spend a lot of time like reading forums, seeing people talk about Linux installs and stuff, but you'll see people saying like, yeah, I've had the same home directory for the last 15 years across numerous distros, because you just move it over every time and there's all your shit, like literally all your shit.
Yeah.
And Windows is nowhere near there yet. There's just still way too much stuff scattered across other parts of the C drive to make it truly portable.
Well, and like there's an uncomfortable like, the one thing that was really nice about this time I installed Windows 11, because I installed it from scratch, and it was like, hey, do you want to copy your settings over from your other Windows machine and let you choose all the other Windows machines that are logged in under your account, which was nice. I haven't actually seen that dialogue before. I didn't want to do that though. I wanted a fresh start, and then it still pulled some stuff over from like the OneDrive syncing and stuff like that. So it's not a perfect system. The thing that I'm wondering is, should I do something like in the past? I've done stupid things like make symlinks from my other drives into my home folder. And I don't think I'm going to do that because it's almost always had some unintended consequences.
Yeah. I've thought about the same thing, like having this giant NAS. I was like, so my system drive it's like 4 years old. It's like a 512 gig. It's like a Samsung Evo. So it's like adequate for Windows, but it does get a little tight, especially when I'm syncing all of my Dropbox there and stuff. So I was like, I also am a person who tends to throw large things on the desktop willy-nilly and think about it later. At some point I was like, what if I just transferred my desktop to the NAS and then I can have unlimited desktop space? But yeah, exactly the type of stuff you said. Like there's always something that is going to break, even though that might be a supported feature.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? Is Windows handles symlinks, so like it usually handles, it respects so symlinks, if people don't know, are when in Linux or in NTFS, you can say, okay, this folder isn't actually a folder on the hard drive. It's just a link to this other folder someplace else in the file structure. And you can do really stupid stuff like put a symlink to a folder above itself, where you can make a recursive loop through the file structure that's going to cause real problems for you. It's not good.
Yeah. Windows also, I should mention, Windows for those special folders like desktop, downloads, documents, stuff like that in your home directory. Like it actually at the shell level, at the Explorer level, you can just right click those and go to location. And it supports, you can literally just type a new path in there and like actually just move your desktop to another place through the shell.
Yeah, don't do that.
I still wouldn't. I
did that. I've done that before, and it's always a disaster. Because
that's exactly what I mean. Like that is literally a supported feature per Microsoft now, because it's right there in the GUI, but I still would not trifle with that.
Enough stuff uses hard-coded paths or paths based on user, like they'll do user profile, %, user profile, %/ desktop.
Dude, I hate shell expansion in Windows. It's so gross.
Yeah. And then it just doesn't work. So anyway, so that's that.
Hang on, I didn't even get to quiz you on the contents of app data. Let's see how much time you spent in your app data directory.
I did not move anything over from old app data to new app data.
Have you ever figured out the difference between roaming local and local low?
Yeah. So roaming is for profiles that you can move. Like if you theoretically are on a network where you're connected to Active Directory and you have a profile that is portable across PCs, so you can log into any PC, the roaming contents will move from PC to PC. Aha. The local is local to that local machine only, but high security, and the local low is the low security section for that.
Interesting. I did not know that. Like in practice, when you go through those directories, it really just feels like things are distributed randomly, because like, especially with if you have a lot of games installed, because there will just be different games in each one of those without any particular rhyme or reason.
So if everything was done the way it's intended, your local settings for like monitor resolution, stuff like that should be in local or local low, and your save games should be in roaming. But in reality, no home users use roaming profiles because they're a real pain in the ass to set up, and nobody has an Active Directory controller on their home network. So realistically, you're not like those things. The other thing that's weird is that now a lot of applications like the Electron applications, when they load, you get into those save in either local or local low. I can't remember which one now.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'll say real quick, since we're talking about Windows drives, I guess we're probably going to move on. But since I'm moving to a new PC probably in mid-January, it's looking like, and you just did, I've become a big believer in Clonezilla. Or I mean, there are other imaging tools you can use as well. That one is
I used it.
That one is open source and freely available, so it's easy to get. But I guess what I should really say is I've become a big believer in just imaging my entire Windows drive off to an external drive, not to necessarily do anything with, but just to have.
Yeah.
Like I fully intend to just do a clean install when I build a new machine, but like having all of those files, game saves, configuration files, like you name it, like just having anything there on an external drive you can just go pluck off and move over is it's a good safety net, I feel like. Yeah,
it keeps you out of trouble. I just image mine up to the NAS. My old so the old gaming PC is now the streaming PC. The old streaming PC got imaged up to the NAS, and I can pop open that image file really easily and grab stuff out of it. The portable apps thing is interesting. Because those just came over really nicely, and it was super, like my Notepad++ config and all that stuff is all there ready to go.
That's exactly why I do everything portable that I can now.
Yeah. You had said that about 6 months ago, and I started doing that at that time, and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And then the D drive, the root has a folder for games where the local store for games on that drive lives. So like my Epic Store folder is there. My main Steam folder is there. Uplay folder, Origin, if I ever play a game on Origin again, and the Windows games that come with Game Pass. But that Windows install puts crap all over the drive, which really bums me out.
So what you're describing, in fact, the Windows and the Game Pass, the PC Game Pass install regime, which is such a mess, is exactly what inspired me to make a games only drive.
Yeah,
and that's where those old SSDs come into play. I'm doing the same thing you are, except my SSDs are old and slow instead of your super nice fast ones. But I've literally got like 5 old SSDs because they were all still good and big enough that I just lashed them all together into one games drive that's about 1.5 terabytes. But yeah, it's so many games installers are just doing what they want these days without a lot of control on the user side that I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to make a quarantine drive. All games get installed here. Whatever they want to do to this drive, like fine, just do it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Microsoft has relaxed some of that stuff. Cause remember, like for a long time, I think you couldn't even like enter the install directories of PC Game Pass games, and you definitely couldn't delete anything manually or mess with anything in there.
So you can like now there's a folder called Xbox Games under my D Games folder, and it has my Game Pass games in there, and they're accessible. There's also a folder called Program Files, and then there's a subfolder on that that's called Modifiable Windows Apps, which is, I assume, where you put game mods for those Xbox Game Pass games.
Interesting. And yes, I also have Xbox games. I see it here.
Yeah, and then there's Windows Apps and WP System. WP System I can get into, and there's what looks like the code for the Xbox Game Pass game I have installed.
Yeah, like the ID.
The ID, and then Windows Apps I'm not allowed to touch, which bums me out. I don't like that.
Wow. I have also dug deep into WP System here. I'm seeing Microsoft.Dayton. What is Dayton? Like some of these are like build names or code or project code name.
Yeah, what Dayton game do you have installed, like Forza or Halo
Dayton,
or something?
I wonder if Dayton might be State of Decay 2.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Here's Gander, Sea of Thieves. Here's the Thrashball Cole character pack. And anyway, point being, like, I really think it's useful to just have a dedicated games drive these days because the install stuff has gotten so messy that it's like just here's just a quarantine dump for all the stuff that.
Well, I mean, kind of, except also everybody else was able to behave, like Steam and Epic and Ubi and Origin and all that fit into one folder and constrain their nonsense to that. Sure. It's only Microsoft that craps up the whole drive. So maybe Microsoft should just get their shit together.
That's entirely reasonable as well.
So other stuff on that drive, I have an Epic folder, and then I also did something new. So I made a root folder for podcasts, for OBS stuff, like which is where all the OBS overlays and graphics and images and stuff like that will live when I collect them all. Laser cutter projects, image editing, and I've made subfolders under there for like big projects, and then a various folder for small projects. Because the place that always breaks down is if I'm just doing like a quick image crop, that doesn't need to be saved in like its own folder. It doesn't need to be part of the structure. It just needs I need a place to put crap.
Dumping ground.
I've built in dumping grounds, and I'm hoping that it sticks better this time. So we'll see.
As I've mentioned this before, I have a similar directory called random, but it's just R&D because I have fully embraced the Unix hierarchy style of like my Audacity folder is called AUD, AUD.
Oh no, that's too much. See, my podcast folder has an Audacity recordings and an Audition files folder underneath it.
Fair. So I have Proj for NAS projects.
Of course.
Anyway.
So then everything gets backed up to Backblaze. That I haven't actually installed yet. I have to do that. But by having everything in this hierarchy, I can not back up the games folders, right? Because previously I've been backing up a terabyte of games every night, which seems unnecessary since I can just download them from the services again.
Probably faster than you could from Backblaze.
Almost certainly. I use Google Photos because our photos just go straight from the phones to Google Photos. I have the cloud storage services for Stray Bombay and for the podcast and for others for stream stuff. It feels weird to me to have Google Drive and Dropbox and OneDrive, but I think it's kind of unavoidable, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, different people use different services and you've got to collaborate, and sometimes you get free storage.
Yeah.
On stuff. Like I looked into some Dropbox upgrades a few years ago that I'm clinging to for dear life. And like Microsoft gave out a bunch of OneDrive storage at one point, you know?
Yep. And then the NAS is where like deep storage is. So there's like some stuff I've ripped, movies and music and TV shows, backup of pre-Google Photos, home photos and videos, which are also in Google Photos. Local backups of laptops, the kiddo's desktop, and my stream PC. There's a huge Mister folder with ROMs and saves and stuff like that the Mister can mount over the network. And a public folder that's like hey, here's an easy way to get stuff from one computer to the other on the home network.
Yeah. It may shock you to hear that my NAS setup is almost identical to yours. I have stuff split up into, I have a data set for exclusively media, like things that are played by something.
Yeah.
So movies, music, ROMs, stuff like that. That's where the Mr. Mount lives. I have just like a giant bulk kind of dumping ground for anything backup-ish. Okay. So like all of the TechPod projects from the beginning of time are there, like backups of our iPhones.
How are you backing up your iPhone?
Those are not super current.
Okay.
This was back from, in fact, they're old enough that I should probably just trash them. Actually, what I really need to do is look into one of those. I think most of them are Mac OS only, like one of those like kind of iPhone backup explorers that lets you like view all the iMessages in there and stuff like that.
Oh, it's like the iTunes backup that like that,
yes,
that one. Okay.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It's from, and you can still do it, but nobody does. It's from when you did a manual local backup in iTunes of your iPhone, and it would just generate a directory that you could restore to a phone.
I've been doing iTunes. Like I've not done a clean install on iTunes for a long time because I didn't want to lose old text messages.
Yes, that's kind of where I'm at. My phone install is only 4 years old, I think, but that's what I'm saying. I have backups from 10 plus years ago, and I've mentioned this before, but there's like text messages with people who are no longer with us in there that I would like to not lose and stuff like that. Data. What were we talking about? I've got like lots of system images in there, like all kinds of, anything that is backup-ish in nature. I've actually, since I've been in like Linux land configuring everything by hand, you can set up Samba to accommodate time machine backups over the network.
Oh, I've done that. That's how Gina's MacBook is backed up.
Okay. Yeah,
it's great.
That's on my list of things to do, but it looks a little bit like there's a decent amount of setup to that, so I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Honestly, I wish I could do that with my iPad. Because like there's stuff on my iPad. Most of the stuff that I use on my iPad is saved in Dropbox, is where the work ends up. but I wish that there was a way to back up the kind of state of the machine locally without using because it takes a ton of iCloud space.
Yes, that's just that iCloud storage is another thing we should talk about here. So I've never paid to upgrade iCloud storage because I just never needed to.
See, we pay for a family plan because we can't you can't back up an iPhone with 5 gigabytes or whatever the default free is anymore.
I kind of just don't think about phone backups that much. I probably should. The main thing though is I just never took enough pictures and videos to fill up the space.
Well, we take, we take a lot of pictures.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't. But so I have just finally filled up that 5 gigabytes in the last 3-4 months. So
you should just do a family thing probably.
We probably should share
because the family thing. The nice thing about the family thing is we get Apple Music and storage and Apple TV and arcade for less than the storage would have cost because that's how they get you.
Yeah, I mean, even without a family plan, it's stupid cheap. It's like 99 cents a month to go to 50 gigabytes instead of 5.
Yeah.
The bigger thing for me, though, is that I don't know that I love the way that stuff like Photos works with iCloud. It's all pretty confusing to me. And I feel like I'm just as likely to just turn off photo sync in iCloud instead. Like I hate the whole like, are these photos actually on my phone or am I viewing like cloud photo, like thumbnails of cloud photos? I hate not knowing where the physical files are, and that's why and the other thing is the Dropbox. I don't know if you have this set up. Dropbox, you can configure to just automatically sync all your photos and videos off your phone as well.
Yeah, I'd fill my Dropbox in like 15 minutes if I did that.
Okay, so this is just a situation of you have way more photos than I do. But
yeah,
I just the iCloud stuff is just fiddly enough with that kind of uncertainty that I had thought about like just not syncing stuff like photos and using Dropbox for that instead.
So I actively dislike how iCloud works. Yeah, for photos.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
It's really hard to pull your photos out of iCloud if you don't have a Mac.
Right.
That's why I use Google Photos.
Okay, that makes sense. And so like I actually went and hit the toggle on the phone to stop syncing photos to iCloud at one point, and they give you this ominous warning of like, I forget what the phrasing is, but it's something along the lines of like, okay, your photos will no longer be backed up to the cloud. You have 30 days to retrieve them, something. Hey,
dipshit, like, you're going to lose all of your precious memories. Yeah.
Right. And it's like they don't make it super clear, like, okay, what is the best way to make sure I get everything that's up there before you delete it all? Because I don't want to use this service anymore because it's stupid.
I have read how it works multiple times. I still don't really understand it. It's designed clearly the thing that they've done is they've designed it to not ever lose photos for people who don't understand how to back stuff up.
Right.
But for people who understand how to back stuff up, it's really fucking confusing.
So like you said, it varies depending on if you're on Mac OS or not. If you are, my understanding is if you turn off that iCloud sync, it will automatically download everything into the Photos app in Mac OS.
Yeah.
Which is one way to do it. But even then, I don't know, are the raw files just available at that point, or are they still abstracted into some kind of like proprietary database format that I can't get to? Like it's all not great.
Yeah,
if you're the type of obsessive data nerd that we are.
I mean, the nice thing about Google Photos is you can hit it from your Google Drive, even I believe, and pull the files out from that. Also, there's stuff like rclone, which we haven't really used yet, but we're going to talk about in an upcoming episode because it's really neat.
I started to bring that up when we were talking about cloud services earlier. I installed it. I just haven't had a chance to hook anything up to it. But rclone is a command line utility that basically hooks into like every cloud storage service you can possibly think of.
Like from Dropbox to S3 and
Amazon S3, like Backblaze, Dropbox, like all of the Google services, including like photos and cloud storage, Azure blob storage, Mega.
I love a good Azure blob, just for the record.
For all of your legitimate uses of Mega, it supports that. Yandex Disk, like WebDAV, I mean, it's just Tencent cloud object storage. Like it takes literally everything, like a bunch of Oracle stuff.
Yeah, but also consumer stuff that normal people would use. Yeah,
Nextcloud, OwnCloud, like it is command line, and I have not really messed with it much yet. And DreamHost is on here, Cloudflare, R2, DigitalOcean Spaces. The point is, you can like go through the auth process and hook all of these cloud services up to this one command line tool. And then it lets you script your backups and stuff like that is the idea, right? Yeah, it has a bunch of built-in, like it's right there in the pitch at the top of like in the about. rclone has powerful cloud equivalents to the Unix commands rsync, cp, mv, mount, ls, ncdu, tree, rm, and cat. So it's like if you want to just have command line access to like every cloud service that you own all in one place, it seems pretty awesome for that. But we'll talk about it more after I've messed with it some.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna use it. Like, I'm a little anxious about having all of my photos, my family photos, because both Gina and I sync our photos there, stored someplace that, like, if I stop paying for it, they'll go away.
That's another part of the iCloud stuff that I don't. It's not that 99 cents a month is like breaking the bank. It's just this. It's more of this paranoia, like you said, about like.
It's like, what if I get hit by a bus and I'm in the hospital for a month and forget about miss the credit card changeover or something?
Right. Like the 30, like it literally is like 30 days and they just delete everything. Like it's just too fiddly and too hands off for my taste.
Yeah.
Anyway, like rclone would make something like dealing with a tech pod, like we share podcast files or the FOSS-pod, and like I run a script to encode the FOSS-pod into audio and video for YouTube.
Yeah.
And I could run that script against, presumably through rclone, against the cloud file instead of having to manually move stuff around. It seems neat.
So what am I doing wrong, Brad? I guess is the question.
Everything. No. Everything sounds pretty reasonable. Like I said, I mean, like our NAS philosophies seem pretty similar. Our local storage stuff seems pretty similar. Our clouds, I think we're pretty in sync on a lot of this stuff. What's your NAS backup stuff like? Like Backblaze for desktop is fine because it's just a flat fee to back up everything.
Yeah.
But when you get into bulk storage.
So I have a real big hard drive that I plug in every once in a while and run a backup script on it.
Okay, sure. That's one way to go.
It's not a great. I'm about to outgrow that hard drive though, which is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I wish that I could hook back. I would happily pay. Like in a perfect world, what I would do, what I used to do was back up the NAS. I used to back up everything in the house to the NAS and then back up the NAS.
That's kind of the way to go for me, I think.
But there's no easy way to backblaze the NAS, and the people that used to do the people that used to run the true NAS plugin or free NAS plugin back then that let you back, they don't do consumer backups anymore. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, Backblaze changed their pricing so that you can't back up network volumes with the flat rate anymore. You have to pay by the gigabyte, which gets very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's not functional right now, but my NAS backup plan regimen is I have a separate volume down the hall hooked up to a Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
And the NAS, this is how it was working before I rebuilt everything. I just need to set it back up. The NAS syncs to that every night.
Oh, okay.
So overnight, and it's incremental, so it's very fast. If very little data has changed, then very little data gets transferred over the network. That used to be a couple of Western Digital elements, just what USB
like 20
drives.
Terabyte elements or something.
15 10 each.
Okay.
Yeah, plugged into the Pi. Anyway, I bought a little 4-bay USB enclosure that I've shucked the drives into now, and I bought a couple more elements and put them in there. But that thing's nice. Like if the house is on fire and
you can just grab it.
I can't grab the whole NAS, but this little 4-bay USB thing you can easily tuck it under your arm, run out the door, because clearly that's the only thing I would try to save from a burning house. But and then I am kind of into this 3-2-1 backup philosophy. That have three locations for your data, 2 local, 1 cloud.
Okay. I mean, I like really the stuff that's on my NAS that's irreplaceable is the home photos and stuff like that. Like I can re-rip discs, and realistically, if they go away, it's not the end of the world. But like
exactly. So
yeah.
I have been looking at this for the last couple of years and just putting it off and never really getting into it. But getting rclone set up, I think, is the thing that's going to finally push me over the edge, because, like I said, it hooks into stuff like Amazon S3 and Glacier and the Azure Blob Storage, which are very deep, long-term archival cloud services where it's very cheap to store a large amount of data.
Like dollars a terabyte per month.
Yeah. Yes. Like it only gets expensive if you ever need to retrieve the data, which at that point, something catastrophic has happened and you're probably willing to pay the money to get it back anyway.
Yeah.
So I have like you said, I've got tons of old photos, like all of our old home movies are digitized now on there. Like, I mean, also, you know me, like every week I'm finding something else on there from my past. I'm
sure you have like an elementary school project saved there somewhere.
It's, pretty much all of my college work is floating around in there in various places.
That's
stuff
funny.
like that is amusing. But anyway, it's not that much data. So it's maybe 500 gig of stuff that is actually truly sentimentally irreplaceable. And so I'm thinking I'm probably going to use rclone to sync that up to S3 Glacier. Is Glacier part of S3?
Glacier is a type of S3 container.
Okay.
So S3 is all of their main storage. There's different storages for application use and stuff like that. That's more connected to EC2 instances or other types of server instances. But yeah, Glacier is just basically deep storage, ranging from, hey, we can have your data in a couple of milliseconds, a few hundred milliseconds, to, hey, we can have your data 12 hours from now, depending on how much you want to pay per gigabyte.
Right. So I probably would go to the absolute cheapest version of that.
Yeah.
Because it's just legacy sentimental stuff. So if I lost it all and I had to wait a day to get it back, fine.
Well, and the nice thing about that is if you're just buying a terabyte, I think I looked at the pricing the other day, and the storage is it was literally $3 or $4 a terabyte per month.
Right.
And that's enough that I would just prepay, prepay a few years.
Right.
So I'm not as worried about it.
Yeah. If that's the price, then I'm probably looking at $2 a month to keep that up there. And that seems appealing to me.
Yep.
Let's see. A couple other miscellaneous notes I made before we started here. You pointed out, going back to the game stuff, is it actually called Storage Manager, this new feature in Steam that sounds like it came about due to the Steam Deck?
It's so it's, if you can find it, if you open up your Steam settings and go to downloads and click the Steam Libraries folder button, Steam Library Folders button at the top of that page, there's now this new UI that lets you see, based on which drive you're on, what games are stored on which drive, and you can select multiples and move them all together rather than having to do them individually, which is super duper nice. It turns out.
Yeah, this is an incredibly better interface than they had before.
Yep, it's really good. Highly recommend it. This is the first place I saw this was on the Steam Deck. So yeah, I think this was a Steam Deck feature that's getting, I think they're gradually bringing over the Steam Deck UI into the main Steam interface. If I had to guess,
I was going to say, as not an owner of a Steam Deck, my favorite thing about the Steam Deck so far is all the features that are trickling down to desktop Steam.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, this is a great way to see everything you've got installed, move stuff between install.
You can uninstall, I installed a bunch of, once I found this, I was able to uninstall all the games from the old PC in 2 minutes, which was awesome.
Yeah, a bunch of sorting options as well, so you can sort and just bulk uninstall stuff.
Here's a question.
And so forth.
Here's a question for you, Brad. What do you do about scratch space for applications like Photoshop and Affinity and stuff like that want scratch space on the disk?
So that's one of the reasons I was saying I like to keep the C drive for just system stuff that I don't know about and put all of things like game installs on a separate drive. Is exactly that reason. It's okay, I don't know how much temp file space Windows needs or swap or et cetera these days. And any application like that needs space just has it there on the system drive, and I don't have to think about it.
For me, that's why I only keep 2 games on that drive, right? That's not, I'm not going to, if I end up in a situation where I look at my computer and it's hey man, you got 50 gigs free or 100 gigs free on this 2 terabyte drive, I've really messed up.
Yeah, for sure. So I routinely am around 50 to 100 gig free on my C drive, but mine is way smaller than yours. Once you're at a 2 terabyte system drive you can certainly get a little looser about what you put on there.
I think I'll be, look, that's 8 war zones, Brad.
Man, that's a lot of war zones.
I can fit all the war zones.
Mm-hmm. I am very excited about building a new PC. talking to you about this stuff, I am one of the nice things about waiting so long is that when you finally get there, it's just that much sweeter.
It's going to be so fast. You're going to not know what to do with yourself.
I really am not. I think my last question for you.
Yes.
How do you float directories that you want to be at the top to the top? What is your naming scheme for making a directory that you should be at the top of the list be at the top of the list?
That has never even occurred to me.
Wait, you don't do that?
I just sort everything by recent.
Interesting.
Well, I either sort by recent or alphabetical.
You don't do an AAA underscore?
No, God, no. That would make me crazy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I'm not saying I do it everywhere, but occasionally you want a directory to appear right at the top.
Wow.
Traditionally have been an exclamation mark at the front of the name person.
That's madness.
To make it float to the top. It's usually a temporary thing.
Wow. No, I almost all folders are sorted by date modified. Root folders, like my D drive is sorted alphabetically.
Yeah, that works fine in File Explorer, of course. I mean, it's more like command line where things are.
This may shock you, but I don't use the command line that often.
Oh man, you should rediscover it. It's a good time. Anyway, I've always been an exclamation mark, but now that I'm doing a lot of command line, now you have to escape the exclamation mark, which is a pain. So I'm thinking about moving to AAA.
Well, I just tab complete everything if I'm command lining too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do too. But you still have to think about it.
So that's it. That's our storage strategies. Please tell us how we're wrong. The big thing I have to do now is collect all my OBS overlays on both PCs, like all the files referenced. I wish that there was a tool. I know that when we had Jim on the FOSS-Pod, he talked about that being an upcoming feature.
Yes, he's talked about like an export manager for profiles and scenes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's not in yet, and I want to go ahead and do it now while I'm thinking about it. It's front of mind.
It seems like the way to go would be to just make an OBS like assets folder at the root of a drive. And then anytime you're on a new machine, just move that. Because then you don't have to worry about relative paths if it's always at the root.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, OBS has a good tool. If you load up a profile and it doesn't see the files, it can't find the files. It'll say, hey, where are these files? And you can point it at a folder and it'll go through and search and find them all, assuming the file names are right. So like getting them all in one place so they're easily movable is the key. And then having the discipline to save new stuff in those folders is the secondary key.
Sure.
So anyway, that is, I think that's an episode, Brad.
Yeah. Storage.
Yeah. As always, we want to thank our patrons because the TechPod is a 100% listener supported show. We wouldn't be here without you all. So thank you, patrons.
It is true. Thank you very much, patrons.
And if you would like to find out how you can get on the patron supporting train, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. Again, that's patreon.com/techpod. And for as little as $2 a month, you can gain access to the fabulous TechPod Discord, which is full of beautiful nerds just like you.
Yes.
If you made it through the body horror cold open and a bunch of nerds talking about the storage stuff, you will probably like it on the Discord. I'm going to guess. Yeah. And as always, we want to thank our executive producer tier patrons, including Nick Johnston, Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, Andrew Slosky, Bunny Thorpe Couch Sleep Crimes, no change since last week, I think, Just Wedge, Joel Krauska, Twinkle Twinkie, and James Kamek. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
And that'll just about do it for us this week. Let's see. Next week, I think we're going to have a special guest on the show.
Yeah,
so
it's exciting.
Yeah, somebody who's not been back, for a returning special guest even.
Mm-hmm.
We've only had one returning guest, I think, right?
I think that's right. This guest may be the most appearingest guest we've had.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, like it's like in terms of number of times they've been on the show, it's you and me tied for number one, I think. And then this person.
Yes.
And then a bunch of people tied for number 3. So, although I want to get Mike Micah back on to talk about Atari 50 sometime because.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, it's been. I'm still enjoying the heck out of that. But we will see you all next week. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a lovely week.